This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
And it's time for Stockton Alive with Nate Knott. Here's the former voice of the Chico State Wildcats, Nate Knott.
Hey, good afternoon, Stockton and surrounding valley. And of course, I'm once again taking advantage of the vast listening audience turned over by Betty Lupe Ramirez, who just preceded us on the air. Mm-hmm. And I've got the great engineer Dustin here.
How are you, Nate?
The man who knows everything that I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Actually, a lot more in many cases. And I don't know everything. It's like what Harry Truman once said. It's what you learn after you know it all that really counts.
Harry Truman, former United States president.
Yes, that's right.
From
former
Missouri.
U.S. president. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other favorite sayings was, "Banks will only loan you money when you prove you don't need it."
Oh.
Yeah, that's another good one. The last one I'll throw out there from Harry Truman was, "It's too bad that all the people that know how to run the country are too busy cutting hair and driving cabs." So he was full of all that good Midwestern wisdom.
He also didn't win the presidency, according to a newspaper.
Oh, really?
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chicago Times.
Yeah.
By the way, they had a clean sweep on being wrong on that headline.
Did they?
They said GOP sweep indicated in this. No one ever talks about this. GOP sweep indicated in the state. Well, in that 1948 election when Harry Truman stunned Thomas E. Dewey, and one of the key victories was in the state of Illinois, I might add, which he won by 33,000 votes, and they never dreamed in a million years he was going to win Illinois. They also didn't think he'd win Ohio and or California. But in Illinois, that was the year that Adlai Stevenson was elected by a record-breaking margin vote for governor of Illinois. And he was Democrat, of course, because he's the one that ran in 52 against Eisenhower. So the Tribune had the whole thing wrong. What happened was they had a city desk editor who was pretty sharp and had a pretty good track record over the years. Everyone knew how this election was going to come out in advance. And based on a few scratchy returns from the East Coast, which, by the way, Dewey did well on the East Coast. One thing people forget about, he did, early on election night, pick up New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Delaware, states that Roosevelt had beaten Dewey in 44. So based on that, and based upon the fact he was expected to win the Midwest, do well in the farm states, and win California, with that early success on the East Coast, it was assumed he was going to win the election. However, he never led in the popular vote. Truman led in the popular vote the entire night.
This just gave me a great concept for a show, Nate. Thanks. We'll talk after this.
Well, we'll certainly have to get to the campaigns and elections later on in the year. But anyway, long story short then, was the Tribune, based on all the knowledge that was out there and based upon scratchy returns from the East Coast and just doing an awful lot of anticipating, went ahead with those big headlines, trying to scoop their rivals. And, well, they scooped them all right. They're the only ones that had the election wrong.
Hey, do you think any money was pushed under the table in Illinois? Just saying.
I did hear a story. I did not know this till recently. I did hear a story that the guy, and I can't remember, the guy who was in charge of the Tribune had one of those titles like general or dictator or something. I don't remember what his name was. I think it was. But anyway, apparently, as soon as it was becoming obvious that Truman actually had a chance to win the election, supposedly he sent a staff of hundreds of people out from the Tribune office in Chicago to buy up every copy of that paper that they could find on every newsstand all over greater Illinois, but particularly in Chicago. But of course, somebody found it, gave it to Truman. When he showed that and it made the famous picture, he was standing on the rear platform of his presidential train in Union Station, St. Louis, the morning after the election, on his way back to Washington, D.C. So, with that having nothing at all to do with what we were planning to talk about on the show, but it is a hot political season right now, so it kind of fits in there.
What are we talking about tonight, Nate?
We are going to talk about Earth Day because we, KXVS, the voice of Stockton, was the official host of the Earth Day, and our own Governor Don was the official MC, and there's the poster there, of course. And it was a great event. It's only a few blocks from my house. I love going there. It's at Victory Park, which I think is great. Great turnout, well organized, excellent booths. It's one of those things that brings Stockton alive, so it should be on Stockton Alive, exclamation mark.
The 30th annual.
Yes, so yeah, that's right. Also, yeah, that's right. It's one of those decadable type holiday things. So anniversary. So in that regards, we should talk about that. So using your vast research skills and historic lookup, we're gonna. I think we've talked about that on this show before, but we're going to talk about one of the things that kind of stimulated the creation of Earth Day. I used to think this was in 1970, but I was corrected. I believe it was 1969 that a river in Cleveland, Ohio, caught fire. And I don't know if it's the Ohio River, if there's a river called the Cleveland River, or if it's the Cleveland Estuary, or is the Allegheny River, or some other place. Now, of course, Allegheny River is in Pittsburgh, but anyway, the point is, or the Canoe River might be.
I think it was the Canoe River.
Yes, I think you. Seems like we looked it up.
We looked it up a
before.
little bit ago, yeah.
And the Canoe is spelled Connaugh, by the way. But anyway, you're in serious trouble when a river catches on fire because, as we all know, water is not flammable. And so, if a river, which is made up of water, catches fire, that gives you an indication how much crap has been poured into that river. And by the way, it's not easy to. In fact, I think it's next to impossible to put out a river fire, since the fire has actually emanated on a foundation of water, and since water is what usually puts out a fire.
It was the Cuyahoga. Sorry.
Oh, the Cuyahoga. There we go. Okay. Well, Canoe was a good guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Cuyahoga River. Was it 1969?
1969.
Yeah. See, I'd always thought 1970.
Feeds into Lake Erie.
I think somebody corrected me at a downtown comeback club meeting the other day is what happened. Yeah, Cuyahoga, thank you. I kind of thought it started with a C, even though the Ohio River is one of the major rivers in that area, I think. Or you know what? The Ohio River goes through Cincinnati. That's right.
The Crooked River, they call it, too.
So, anyway, I think that fire, which made national headlines, and it burned, as I said, you really can't put a river fire out because it's already sprung up on a bed of water, and water's what's the main way you fight a fire. So obviously a river fire is made up of serious pollutants and chemicals that are essentially floating on the surface of the water. So pouring water on them does no good. I think the only way you can fight is to put flame retardant that flame retardant foam that they use sometimes.
June 22nd, 1969.
There we go, June 20. I remember it was summertime too.
From OhioHistoryCentral.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the Cuyahoga River. Does it say if there was any actual damage to vessels or the docks?
So
I think there was a couple ships destroyed, some docks. I think it was somewhere near the port of Cleveland.
As 1960, this is coming from the site. As 1960 came to an end, it says so did the country's manufacturing. Basically, Cleveland continued to produce, which, when paired with a lack of sewer and waste disposal regulation, maintained. It basically seeped into the river, some industrial places.
Yeah. So that fire grabbed national headlines. I think it burned for a week or two. It kind of has to put itself out with all the retardants and all those things just have to burn off the surface of the water eventually. Because if you spray water on it, you just spread it bigger and wider and make it worse. Although they might have dropped some foam. If foam existed then, I can't quite remember. Something similar to what they use on a forest fire. I'm not sure if that works on a river fire or not. But so that was kind of what stimulated the final discussion that we were really crapping out America with pollutants on land and water alike, and oceans too, of course. Hey, if a river can catch on fire, so can an ocean, at least a port of an ocean. So Anyway, Earth Day comes along in 1970, and I think we've talked about this before, but I think Earth Day came before the law, the Clean Air and Water. I think it was called the Clean Air and Water Act that was signed by President Richard Nixon, which I want to say was signed in the late summer or fall of 1970. What I don't remember either is whether the Environmental Protection Act was part of the law or if the law created the stimulus to create the Environmental Protection Act.
You were correct. 1970 was the first one.
I was pretty certain the law was passed in 1970, but I didn't remember exactly what it was made up of. But all this stuff together is why we have Earth Day. So, and this being the 30th anniversary of Earth Day, then now I don't know if that's the 30th anniversary. Is it the 30th anniversary of Earth Day itself or Earth Day in Stockton?
Earth Day in Stockton.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because Earth Day I think started 1970 would be 48 years ago. So it came to Stockton then a few years later. But that's good that they got it started. They put it in a great place. I don't know if it's always been there, but it's been in Victory Park as long as I can remember. So that's good. So anyway, we go to Earth Day. Earth Day officially on Sunday, which was yesterday. We're live tonight. That was Sunday, yesterday. You may be seeing us at a later date, and these dates may seem a little older then. But for the moment, we're live, and we're talking about yesterday, which was Sunday, April 22nd. We had Earth Day at Victory Park in Stockton. It was from 11 to 4 officially. However, at 10 a.m., we had the March of Science.
We had yoga at 9 a.m.
Oh, yoga at 9 a.m. Oh, my goodness. Did they have a special name, or was it just plain old yoga? Do you remember who the group was or instructor?
No, just a bunch of people showed up and did yoga.
Oh, okay. So this is kind of a grassroots yoga event then.
It's been going on for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. I don't personally do yoga, but I think it's great. And for those that do, God bless them. But anyway, so that's nice. So that means we had constant, ongoing, positive health human activities starting at 9 a.m. then, with Earth Day eventually going on until 4 o'clock. Of course, Earth Day concluded with the sensational performance of Big Earl up on the portable stage that they used for the summer concerts in Victory Park, which are just around the corner, the Wednesday night concerts. They use that same portable stage for Earth Day they have for that. There was also spectacular performances by at least a couple of different Cesar Chavez groups.
Yes, Art Coleman.
Yes, Art Coleman, who used to have the incredible program at Hamilton Middle School many, many years ago. He was actually California's Teacher of the Year one year because of the program.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think when he got the award, he was at Chavez. But for about 15 years, he established this spectacular music program at Hamilton Middle School. And people always tend to not realize it's a multifaceted program, which was on display yesterday. It's all music and performance of music, which means you're talking about not only instrumental music, as in people playing instruments, but the different kinds of music, orchestral, jazz, big band, concert, and then there's also singing and dancing and a mixture of both. Now, I know the Record's front page today, the Stockton Record newspaper, front page was of Hawaiian dancers that were from Cesar Chavez High School. And that was earlier in the day. And then what I saw was the sensational Cesar Chavez jazz singers. Now, the jazz singers were all vocal. That's even separate from the great jazz band they have there, which I don't think the jazz band actually performed there yesterday. I think it was just the jazz singers. Art Coleman himself was actually singing at a UOP event, if I understood the announcement properly, so he was not there. So that was just one of the many great stage events they had there.
Yeah, he actually was there earlier in the day, and he did, he did Polynesian singing with this Polynesian group from Cesar Chavez.
Oh, okay. So he was there with the dancers earlier. I was there later in the day myself. I had other events that I attended that morning. But Earth Day is quite a spectacular event. Now, regardless of what your feelings are about climate change, all the other things, there really should be no gripe with Earth Day. You're just celebrating Earth as being a beautiful place with clean air and clean water. The weather was gorgeous yesterday for this event. We're finally getting our spring warmer weather. In fact, unfortunately, we're going to go practically straight from winter to summer is what's going to happen.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Spring's not even a season anymore.
Right.
So is fall. Fall's barely.
Right. So in addition to the fact that there's great entertainment there, as you mentioned, there's great food there. There were several food vendors, and you had the best popcorn of your life yesterday.
It was, some of the best popcorn ever. Mr. Pop's.
Mr. Pop, yes. I myself, as I relayed before the show, did not have the popcorn at the Earth Day because My family was actually at the movies at the downtown Cineplex.
What did they see?
You know, I forgot to ask. I need to ask that question. But in any event, I knew they were going to bring me some popcorn later in the day from the theater, so I didn't want to stuff myself with popcorn at one event and then suddenly find a bucket of popcorn at home, which I did eventually get a bucket of popcorn at home. So anyway, what I was going to say was, regardless of what you may feel about environmental rules, environmental regulation, I know a lot of people think that's all overblown and blown out of proportion, exaggerated. They don't like the regulations and rules, and I understand a lot of that. I know there's still people who doubt climate change. Okay, I'll give people the benefit of the doubt of having their own opinions. What I want to say about Earth Day, though, is you've got a lot of great vendors there and a lot of great activities, but you have great information that has nothing to do with politics. It just has to do with good old-fashioned taking care of your own yard, your own neighborhood, your own community.
You got some supplies over there?
I have some things we'll talk about. For example, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District.
Which you can hear their PSAs on our station.
Yes, that's right. Which contains an 8-county area, which I know one of these cameras.
What are those 8 counties?
I'll read them off to you. San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Merced, Madera, Fresno, Kings, Tulare, and Kern. With that having been, it's by the way, geographically, it's the largest air pollution control district in the United States. But the point I want to make out is for people who would maybe want to go green but don't want to spend the money, or think they don't like the extra cost of an electric mower versus a gas mower, or something like that. Well, they have incentive programs. You can go out and get discounts on these things. If you look up the information, you can go and you can get vouchers to buy these various things. If you're a big industry, you can get vouchers to buy hybrid vehicles, for example, instead of straight gas or diesel. And so that's one of the types of things you can find out about at Earth Day. How about hazardous waste? This has nothing to do with climate change, but it's important. Hazardous waste is what led to the river fire in Cleveland that we just talked about. But anyway, the point is, we all have a lot of hazard waste around our homes. We have solvents and cleaners and paints and paint thinners and all kinds of chemical things, things for your yard and garden, the things to clean and shine your cars and polish things. All that stuff piles up in your garage at some point. And before it mixes with a hot water heater and blows up your house, you might want to just dump some of the stuff, but you don't want to dump it down the drain, of course, which will flow into the delta and cause the delta to catch on fire and kill off all the fish. This particular folder that I'm talking about tells you how to safely get rid of your hazardous waste. So this is very helpful. It tells you what you can take, where you take it, what it costs to dispose of it. There's the Sharps collection program. We can get rid of things that are really dangerous to have around, like syringes and lancets and needles and injectors. All this kind of stuff is at Earth Day. Burning trash. Burning trash is actually illegal now. I can remember it was a pretty common thing to scoop up a bunch of stuff on a Saturday afternoon and just burn it up.
Every movie in the 80s had it.
But yes, but this is now illegal to do, but you can find out about what is legal to do. If you have a crop and farms, there are certain types you're allowed to burn certain things.
So no more dumpster fires, folks.
That's right. But yeah, the point is all this great information is at Earth Day. There's also great organizations there. Not all of them have to do with the environment, by the way. There was political parties there, and there was various other things. Although surprisingly, only 2 political parties were there. One political party, for some reason, chose not to be there, and even if there's an argument about climate change, I don't know why you would disagree with all this public health stuff, and why would you not want to be part of an event where it talks about disposing safely of hazardous waste, which is good for everybody. It's common sense. You don't want your neighbor dumping a bunch of chemicals by your backyard fence, for example. That's non-political. That's just good common sense. There are also information about earthquake faults, which may or may not help you make decisions about insurance for your home.
Which I actually was reading last week in the news that came out. The San Andreas fault is actually not the one people should be worried about.
There's several faults, like the Hayward fault.
That's the one, Hayward fault that just came out of study last week, I believe.
I believe it's a Hayward fault that goes right underneath Berkeley Memorial Stadium at UC Berkeley's campus. And it's one of the reasons they rebuilt Berkeley Stadium there was it 3 years ago? Cal completely rebuilt that? That's one reason why, is because the stadium was slowly crumbling to shreds because it was being torn in half by the fault. So they not only it was an old stadium, of course, anyway. They not only wanted to upgrade it up and make it much more comfortable, nicer, more accessible, and all the other usual things that goes with it, but they actually had to rebuild it to put it on a new foundation.
Yeah, it's the Hayward Fault that's overdue for a big. They said.
Yeah, and the Hayward Fault and there's a lot of population sitting on the Hayward Fault. And Hayward has a multi-story city hall. There's also what used to be Cal State Hayward, which is now Cal State East Bay. I don't really get why they changed the name. I don't think it changes where it is.
People are like, "Where's Hayward?" But everybody probably knows where the East Bay is. That's why I think.
But the East Bay is so generic that if you're going to find something, better to go to the specific address. But anyway, and then there's notes about various insects and how to deal with them. I mean, this is all good, practical stuff. It's right there at Earth Day. So you go have the best popcorn in your life, get an icy or something cold to go with the popcorn, and pick up all this good information. Saves you from having people knocking on your door, and saves you from going, driving all over or walking all around looking for this information. I learned something I did not know. You can put food waste in your green dumpster garbage can. What? I did not know that. You can put bread, bones, coffee grinds, eggshells, leftover sandwiches, pizza boxes, dairy products such as cheese, and fruit peels like leftover from orange. It can all go in the green waste bin. I did not know that. I've always just dumped it in the regular garbage one. But I guess that's probably to stimulate composting and some other things that they do when this stuff is dumped. I've always used the green for just like leaves and lawn trimmings and all that stuff. This is great to know that you can put some of the food waste in there. So that's all kinds of good practical information. And then there was even other stuff like the Amtrak information.
I went by there.
Right.
We talked about that yesterday when I saw you.
We talked about the fact that the new schedule's coming with an early morning train from Stockton. It actually originates in Fresno, but an early morning train will operate from Stockton to Sacramento, something people have been screaming about for years and years and years, is going to happen on May 7th. So many of you heard it first here on Stockton Alive with our train theme music that we have. And the fact we usually reference transportation at some point. So just to give you some information on that, we are.
We'll play it right while you're talking about it real quick.
Yes, beneath background music, right? So you've got a train that will leave Fresno at 4:25 in the morning, and it will come through Stockton at the very convenient handy hour of 6:30 a.m., and get you to downtown Sacramento at 7:46 a.m. in time to check in for an 8 o'clock meeting or clock in for work or go to some important event. So that's great. And then there'll be another train coming along that goes to the Bay Area early in the morning, and that'll come through Stockton at 7:20 a.m. I'm sorry, that's on Saturday, Sundays, and holidays. I'm sorry, the next train that will come through that goes to the Bay Area will be at 10:09 a.m. That's still a little bit earlier than what there has been in the past. So, and then southbound, a new train time will be at 1:37 in the afternoon. That one, I'm sorry. Yes, southbound, okay. We will have one departing Sacramento at 12:41 in the afternoon, coming through Stockton at 1:37 p.m. and getting to Fresno at 3:53 p.m. Now, with the exception of that very, very early morning train I mentioned that leaves Fresno at 4:25 a.m., I believe these trains are going to and from Bakersfield.
Yes, they are. That's the last point.
Yeah, so I know the early morning one starts in Fresno, and there's a bus connection from Bakersfield.
I used to take that every morning.
Yeah, and I know the Bakersfield.
Or not every morning, every summer.
Yeah, and when you had time off and things.
Yeah, when visit family.
And I know that because the Bakersfield people weren't terribly happy about this. Right at the current schedule, I believe they have a 5 a.m. departure. That 5 a.m. departure's gone away. The train now originates in Fresno at 4:25 a.m., and there's a bus connection from Bakersfield. So they have to get up earlier in Bakersfield and ride a bus to Fresno.
Why are people mad about that? I don't get.
Well, because they lose a train departure. Okay. However, they also get now an early trip to Sacramento if they need it. So I think when they get used to it, and they'll get you. And at that early morning of the time, you could. It's only about a 1 hour trip. It's a little over 1 hour, I think, from Bakersfield to Fresno.
I like traveling early.
Yeah, I do too. And so it'll be very helpful in the long run.
Makes the day go by kind of quicker.
Right. So all that was it. All that stuff we talked about was just simply an Earth Day.
All right, and RTD was out there, right?
Yeah, RTD was there with the electric bus. Yes, we were. I was actually getting that. I'm glad you brought it up. Yes, we had and not just any electric bus, one of our newer electric buses. As we've talked about,
it sits slow, by the way.
What's that?
It sits slow. It's like very
yes,
low to the ground.
all of them are low riders, and I'm not sure why that is.
Low.
There's something about how they're designed. They are pretty low slung, and then I believe that the batteries that operate those buses are in the underframe too. I think one reason why I think they look low because the skirting is around the bottom, which is to probably hide the apparatus that goes with the storage battery. Now, there's a little bit of a hump on those buses at the top, but the hump is not where the battery is. The hump is the trough where the pod comes down and slides across the roof to connect and mate with the bus in order to give it its quick charge at the charging stations in downtown Stockton. And I'm going to get back to that bus and some other stuff in a moment. Right now, though, it is a segue. Speaking of Amtrak and the transit bus being at the Earth Day at Victory Park yesterday in Stockton on Sunday, April 22nd. We'll throw the date out there now and then so you realize that we're live tonight, but you may see this show another time. We don't want you to be fooled by the dates and jump out there in May or something. But I attended last Sunday, a week before the Earth Day, I attended a special summit in Tracy. It's very unusual to have a summit, a transportation summit anywhere on a Sunday, especially in a California Valley town. But a city councilwoman, and her last name escapes me, but her name is Rhodesia, scheduled this summit. I think she finally went for Sunday because it was one of the few days where she felt she could get a lot of people to commit to come there in a kind of a low-stress, relaxing environment. So a week ago Sunday, that would be April 15th, I was at the Tracy Community Center near Tracy Hall, and about 5 blocks, Tracy City Hall, and about 5 blocks from the downtown Tracy Transit Station to talk to people about the commute to the Bay Area and what could happen in the way of transportation to help people avoid having to use I-205 and at Interstate 5 and whatever else you have to take to get to the Bay Area. Of course, you cross the Altamont, I believe, on I-205. And I-205 is what connects Tracy to, well, just before the Altamont. Actually, I-5 swings into the I-205 at the foot of the Altamont. So anyway, having said all that, there was myself there. There was Stacy Mortensen, the chief executive operating officer of the San Joaquin ACE commuter train that operates from Stockton to Lathrop, Manteca, to Tracy, to Vasco Road, Livermore, to Pleasanton Fairgrounds, and on over to Santa Clara and San Jose with a stop near Great America, near the the Silicon Valley with the bus shuttles.
That's cool. You could take a trip to Great America, basically, from Stockton.
And also there are special Sunday trips to Sunday 49er home games.
Who? I'm sorry.
Sunday 49er home games, yes.
I'm a Rams fan. So.
I figured, I knew that by your comment.
It's going to be a great couple of years.
And then there's many Raider fans out there, of course, too. The Silver and Black and the
Which
Raider
you can
Nation.
take, that's during the week, though. RTD doesn't do a commuter bus on the weekend, huh?
No, we do commuter buses, but we don't go directly to Santa Clara. We once did, but we don't now. And I mentioned Sunday games. Because of the complex scheduling of the Union Pacific Railroad, ACE is not allowed to do commuter service to the 49er football games on the Monday night or Thursday night games.
Oh, interesting.
The public has to fend for themselves those nights. And parking at Levi's Stadium is basically a huge, humongous, unbelievable jigsaw puzzle nightmare.
Yeah, the city messed that one up.
My son gave me an explanation that he's been there a couple times. I've not been there yet. He's been there. He explained how many different parking lots there are, how hard they are to get to, how hard they are to find. They all have a different rate. They have different rules and regulations. And amazingly enough, only one small section of, I guess, if there is such a thing as a main parking lot for Levi's Stadium, only one specified section of that or a couple specified sections allow tailgating. So that's in this day and age, that's like God to people in the NFL is the tailgate. So for 49er fans, tailgating isn't really an option because I think that parking lot is sold out to season ticket holders maybe. I'm not sure. The one that allows tailgating. So anyway, that's a real challenge. So getting back to the Tracy Transit Forum, lest we forget, and no, Vince Scully was not at the Tracy Transit Forum. The idea of the forum was primarily a rail meeting. It was to talk about the plans that are being developed as we speak to connect physically or to the same platform, I should say, the ACE commuter trains that begin in Stockton and go through Lathrop, Manteca, and Tracy to BART when it extends out towards Isabel Road or Greenville Road or wherever it's going to wind up coming eastbound from its present location at Dublin. BART is essentially supposed to be already on its way. Now, when I say on the way, I don't mean construction, but it's already supposed to be dedicated with funding and plans to get to Isabel Road, which is about halfway to Livermore or to Greenville at the foot of the Altamont. But anyway, the long story short was ACE was there to explain all the many things that are going on to try and get this done. To cut the story fairly short and simple, in a best case scenario, with everybody working hard and collaborating and agreeing on it, and sincerity and, people having forethought and vision and looking great ahead and knowing it's a good thing, it could take about 10 years and about $2 billion to get ACE to physically get to a transfer connection point with BART. And that will have to happen on the other side of the Altamont. So that was basically the discussion, which was an hour long. There was presentation by the agencies such as myself with RTD and ACE that each went about 10, 12 minutes. And then there was a couple speeches. Virginia Maduena was there, by the way. She's running in the Democratic primary for House of Representatives for the seat that is now held by Jeff Dunham down in Ceres and Merced. She was actually one of the people there because she actually is a consultant or marketing person for ACE, which I didn't know. I mentioned Virginia Maduena because I think she's been on the air here at KXVS.
She might have. The name sounds familiar.
I think she's been here on the air with one of the several people, possibly with Betty, but with somebody on the air here. I think she's been on as a guest here a couple times before. She has run for office once before, did not win in the primary. We'll see what happens this time. I don't remember if she ran. I think she ran for county supervisor the last time, but I'm not positive on that. In any event, so she was there officially, but of course it was also gave her some exposure as a candidate. And I'm not, by bringing up her name, I'm not trying to personally endorse her or anything on this show. I'm just mentioning that she was there. So anyway, we had some people, and there was one other person there who, unfortunately right now the name escapes me who this person was and exactly what their connection was to the whole project. I believe they were in charge of a grassroots campaign, and this forum was also there to discuss the Central Valley Rail Working Group, I believe it's called, and there's another organization or commission that was set up by legislation with some funding to actually work on the actual proposals that would be needed to bring legislative bills to fruition in the state assembly and state senate to actually fund and start the actual construction of any project that would connect ACE physically to BART in the Altamont area. So with all that being said, we all made presentations, we all discussed things, and again, it was primarily a rail meeting. I was kind of fortunate to be invited as a representative of the San Joaquin Regional Transit District. But there was an ending towards the day that brought up something that we've talked about on this show a little bit, and now I'm going to kind of scream it out there. Well, they talk about the 10 years and the $2 billion needed to make this all happen. Mm-hmm. RTD right now today runs 9 round trips a day to BART directly to Dublin from Stockton with big, beautiful motor coaches that have reclining seats and reading lights and luggage racks. And so I said that a couple different times during the forum, and they all kind of acknowledged that, but no one quite caught what 9 round trips means.
What time does that start today?
Well, it starts at 4:10 in the morning. I'm so glad you asked.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Fact,
the public.
Let me take a Marco Rubio moment here and reach for something. Because the one thing I forgot to put in my folder, and I think I have one on me, is the BART 150 commuter schedule. Yes, ding, ding, ding. Here we are. As we ring the trolley bell. Yes, I have the BART 150 commuter schedule with me.
Of course, you have every schedule.
Yes, true. I actually do have every.
You're like a traveling salesman.
Yes, that's right. I'm the transit version of the Fuller Brush salesman. Mm. Now, Fuller Brush salesman, I don't think exists anymore. But they have commercials.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it was a company that made all kinds of great little home improvement projects.
Oh, nice.
And they literally made brushes that were great, but cleaning cleaning supplies, foam spray to clean things, scrub brushes. They still specialize in brushes, I guess. There is still a Fuller Brush Company, by the way, because I saw an infomercial on TV just last night by the Fuller Brush Company. Interesting you bring that up. And I remember them visiting our house in Manteca when I was a little kid. Of course, that was back when you had eggs and milk.
Buy anything?
I think my mom probably occasionally bought. They used to come around about once a month, open up a big briefcase full of all kinds of cleaning tools and things. They were primarily selling you stuff for your kitchen is what it primarily was, and to clean your bathrooms and things. So, getting back to the BART schedule, being the good Fuller Brush salesperson I am, I started to ask you a question. What does 9 round trips mean to you?
So one back and one
yes,
back
exactly.
and forth, yeah.
A round trip, you mean you go there and you come back. Several times during this forum, I mentioned that we had 9 round trips. And I guess it just didn't register.
So from 4 o'clock to what time?
I'm going to read the schedule.
Okay.
And the reason I didn't answer your questions, I'm just going to tell you what I did at the forum.
Okay.
Since the 9 round trips weren't registering.
Did you pull that out?
And yeah, towards the end of the forum, somebody said, what can we do today? Since we don't have the rail connection, what can we do today? I said, we have 9 round trips a day currently operating. And just let me read you the schedule. So since I had realized that these 18 one-way trips had not sunk in, I read the schedule to the Tracy. And there was audible gasps in the audience. So I'm going to do that for our vast listening audience here at KXVS. And maybe there'll be digital audio gasps in our hidden silent majority audience, the vast listening audience always preceding here with Betty Lupe Ramirez. So I'm going to read those off right now, because since you asked. Glad you asked. Glad you asked.
Go ahead.
This is that day I read them off from Tracy, but today I'll read them off from Stockton. This is our everyday schedule, Monday through Friday, and I'll talk about weekends in a moment. This is our current schedule, Monday through Friday, from downtown Stockton to the BART station in Dublin, every single weekday, except for a major holiday like Thanksgiving. 4:10 a.m., 5:10 a.m., 7:20 a.m., 8:55 a.m., 10:55 a.m., 2:50 p.m., 3:50 p.m., 4:50 p.m., and 7:10 p.m. at night. That's all going to the BART station in Dublin. And on our schedule, we even show you the connecting BART trains you can catch. I know you may not see that on our TV show.
You like BART?
But I enjoy riding BART, sure. It's faster and easier than getting across the bay any other way. And the trains are fast. They're a little bit screechy and noisy, I admit. That's partly because of the age of them. You know, they're running cars that are 45 years old now, but they're getting new cars online right now as we speak. But anyway, the point is we do have the connecting BART trains in the timetable that you would be able to catch from our bus arriving there. When our bus arrives there, by the way, it drops you off right at the underpass that is right next to the ticket area where the vending machines are.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it drops you off right there. Now, you do have to walk a little ways to pick them up to come home later, because we can't have them dwell under the underpass there. But they do drop you off right at the entrance to the BART station. Now, this is coming home from BART Dublin. You can, because we are promoting a cross, reverse commute and all that, from Dublin BART, coming to Stockton. Now, all these buses stop in Tracy's transit station, and they stop at a special stop we have in Lathrop near the Save Mart Shopping Center. So all of these trips do that. From BART, you can depart for Stockton on RTD's beautiful over-the-road motor coaches with reclining seats, overhead reading lights, luggage racks. 6:20 a.m., 7:20 a.m., 9:20 a.m., 10:35 a.m., 12:35 p.m., 4:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m., and 8:45 p.m. And we're looking to expand this. I can see us going to a 10th round trip in the not all that distant future. Now, we also have a few shuttles connecting to and from Manteca. I'm not going to read them off on this schedule.
Go Buffaloes.
Now.
Or Lancers. Or Timberwolves. Sorry.
So, now, in addition to this, we're real close to committing to weekends.
Oh, are you now?
The difference is, the only thing is, do
you think people will use it on the weekends?
Oh, we have a lot of people
interested, yeah?
Yeah. Now, I should point out, this route does pretty good. We carry 5,000 to 6,000 people per month on this route. And we could do a lot better, though. People back and forth every day. Yes. Yeah, we have about 3 trips in the morning, about 3 in the afternoon that are actually pretty full of commuters. So people like and then the midday trips are fairly. You have my 10 or 11 people. Where do people like park? Do they park like around exactly downtown or some? How do they? Yeah. Most of them get dropped off or picked up at are picked up at a park and ride lot away from downtown at Michigan and Kirk at a place, I forgot the name of the church now, Lifesong Church.
So do you pay for your ticket like stuff like that beforehand?
Most people have a monthly subscription.
Okay.
You can get monthly subscriptions.
This is like RTD infomercial and all, but sorry, it's interesting.
No, that's good.
The commuter bus.
Well, here's an example. If you wanted to commute round trip all month from Stockton to Bart, you know you're going to use it almost every weekday. You can get a monthly subscription for $191. Now, judge that against the cost of parking at the BART station and paying gas, and I think you're doing pretty good. If from Lathrop, $175, from Manteca, $185 with the Manteca shuttles, or from downtown Tracy, I think this is a real bargain, $158 round trip for a whole month. Now, if you want to go on a single trip, and many people just go take a single trip, it's $7 cash. You pay the driver directly, no change given. Of course, they'll be gladly accept a $10 bill, but yeah, $7 each way. The good news is we have some people that ride these buses just between Tracy or Stockton because one of the other regular route schedules has already departed, like the Route 90 or 97, and they still want a trip to Stockton or going the other way to Tracy. You can ride these buses locally. We will let you ride to Lathrop or Tracy. Unfortunately, at the moment, if you do that, it is $7. But we're strongly considering a San Joaquin County fare that's discounted to maybe $4 or $5. So,
Nate, final. The show's actually like a minute left. Jeez, it went by fast.
Perfect timing, because that's just what I was trying to.
Okay, what do you want to end up with?
Well, let me talk about the parking.
Okay, yeah.
We'd have double the ridership tomorrow if we had a secure, regular, everyday parking ride lot in downtown Stockton, like Ace has. We don't have that yet. But the good news is, I am negotiating for RTD with the city of Stockton to get safe, secure parking in a downtown parking garage that this bus will probably pick up and drop off directly at. And that could happen. The weekend service could be 3 to 6 round trips each weekend day, Saturday or Sunday. And that's probably, in my opinion, a strong bet to happen in early 2019. Like possibly when we have our major schedule changes in January 2019. And we left out the whole entire RTD restructuring. We're going to talk about that. Gives us ammunition for our next show. But not ammunition. That's not a positive term anymore. That gives us great speaking topics and discussion issues to go over next show.
Well, Nate, it's been a pleasure as always on The Voice of Stockton. And you want to find more information on The Voice of Stockton, thevoiceofstockton.org. And Nate, thanks for the history lesson as always.
Yeah, and we almost forgot to get off the train before it left the station.
Well, this has been Stockton Alive. Until next time, this is Dustin and Nate Knott.
The views and opinions expressed in the following